Hello everybody, welcome back to 7 Days. We are in the LizLabz series. Today we're just going to be covering the basics. I am not going to try and cover horde bases or anything else like that. This is just basic zombie pathing. The zombies will path to you on a vertical, horizontal pathing, and usually always 90% of the time, unless of course there's an occasional fluffy incident, which is when zombies just do weird zombie things for no zombie reason, the zombies will come to you using the path of least resistance. They are going to check for you on their level, which means they're going to look horizontally for your location. If you are not on their level, they will try to reach you vertically, up or down. They will not come to you and then try to get up or down to you. They will try to look for a way to get to you immediately up or down. Ladder, stairs, falling off of things, any number of things, whatever they can do to get on your location, and then they will try to come at you horizontally, as in they will run from side to side. How does this look exactly? It can be completely different on whether or not there's any form of pathing open to them. They could find that, according to their mathematics in their brain mush, that there is not a legitimate path for them to take, in which case they're just going to beat up on the block underneath you, attempting to bring either themselves up to you or you down to them, either one. Let's just go over a couple of examples to try and show you what it is that I am talking about. This is the basic pathing. In a lot of cases, a lot of people will build bases up off the ground because, like I said, they're going to look for you on their level. And if they can't find you on their level, they're going to try and come up or down to you. So the easiest way to control where zombies are going to go is to get up off the ground, whether or not you are in a POI, whether or not you are doing a horde night. The easiest way to control where zombies are coming from is to get off of the ground. Because if you're all on the same level, they don't have to look for you vertically at all. They just come at you horizontally, and they can come from all sides, because they're not going to be like, oh, your back is turned to me. I can't come at your back, so I'm just going to wait until you turn around. They're not going to do anything like that. That's not actually the way that they work. That's just like 90s movies when like there's one person in the middle and only the people who are facing them can actually fight the character. That's not how they work. They will gang up on you. If we were to have a horde night, all of the zombies could spawn in anywhere they wanted to, north, south, east, west, it does not matter. So the way to control where you have to face in order to fight them is to get them off of the ground. Or off the level they spawn in on. Whether you go up or down is kind of up to you, but understand that zombies underground are a bit different than zombies up in the air. And they typically wind up being easier to deal with up in the air, so this is the way most people do it. And we're just going to do like a quick demonstration of what it is that I mean. Right now I am up off the ground. If I were to come over here and plant ourselves a zombie, and using zombie hearing, pull the zombie to me. Okay, what I'm doing right now is actually leveling out the ground because the zombie is having a hard time pathing. This should work now. I'll get into that one in a minute. First off, let's just prove what I was saying instead of the zombie being weird. Or she could just do that. I mean, she could take a nap in the middle of all of this. It's fine. Thank you. I found the blondest of all of the zombies. So basically what happened there was, it was because of the slant of the ground, not because of the block difference, but the slant of the ground. There was a little bit of a height issue, and she was attempting to break her way through in a way that did not make sense, which is another reason why I say occasionally zombies do weird zombie things, and not because what they're doing doesn't really make sense. In their pathing, it does make sense. It's just, it's very hard to see what it was that she was seeing or anything else like that. Just because this is an uneven ground, it has to do with how the ground is made. There we go. That essentially fixed all of that. So if you're having a hard time with your zombie making one block, they can make one block. She was just being ridiculous, and of course I'm trying to do a tutorial, so zombies are going to do what zombies do, which is mess everything up. Next. Let's go over to this one, which is another one of those zombies are going to path things. Instead of zombies doing zombie stupid stuff, hopefully they will do what they're supposed to do. And there she goes. There. In both cases, she was not on the same level as me, so she went up to my location and she went down to my location. In this case, she didn't even take a path that made any sense. She just simply ran down here and dropped off. The main reason being is because in order for her to use this pathway, it requires a stop and a jump, and that is calculated in as like a math problem of how many steps slash jumps slash hits slash whatever it is you want to calculate in there on what it takes for her to get there, as in it will take more effort for her to reach my location by going down the steps instead of just running straight over and dropping. A little bit frustrating, but once you kind of get the hang of it, you're going to understand how it is a zombie's path. The zombies may not follow you along a pathway if they can just drop down and meet you there. And then on to something else, which is basic zombie pathing whenever it comes to the blocks that are in 7 Days to Die. There are certain paths that are pathable, and certain paths that are not pathable to a zombie, and the way that you tell is the zombie will come to you if a zombie can. If a zombie cannot come to you, they will beat on blocks. And that's how you tell whether or not you're standing in some place that is pathable. In this case, let's stand here. There she goes. She is coming up to my location. There we go. Now, if for some reason the blocks that were being used were not pathable by the zombie would react differently. Say, for instance, we are using this block, which has the same thickness. Has the same thickness as the other one, just a different rotation, and it's in a different location. But on this particular one, that particular block is not pathable. They cannot run over this block. If you are going to use this block in a building, you can use it as a support for your base. If you're building off of another base, say you want to attach a pathway between your horde base and your home base, but you want a path that the zombies aren't going to see in case they path up into your horde base. While you're in your home base, you don't want them coming over to you. You want them to run the gauntlet inside the horde base, because they will still come up to your area, but they won't see it as a path to get over to you, which could cause a problem. We'll get into that whenever we get into horde bases and more in depth on pathing, but this is how you would control whether or not they come to you at all. This could be a problem if you're building a horde base and this block is supposed to be pathable. So this is how you test on whether or not your blocks for your building are pathable, is basically if the zombie runs them. Now, something else to cover. There are certain configurations of pathing that are not doable by zombie standards. Zombies do not path on a diagonal. They do not see this as a pathable area, even though we can use it. There is absolutely no problem with us jumping from this location. For us, it's just like jumping from that to that to that to that. This is easy. Whereas, if I were to stick a couple of... Ladies, get down from here. That's plenty of Aussie waifus. If I turn it back on and I get their attention... they immediately go into rage mode because they cannot find a path to me. When a zombie cannot path to you, they rage on individual blocks, attempting to break a path into a building, as it were. If they do enough damage, the zombies can occasionally break a stairway path because they can hit up into a location and thereby create steps up to you, but of course they're breaking pathing doing this. So as you can see, this would be as a way of you getting in and out of your base. This might be fine, but as a way of trying to get the zombies to come up to your location, this will not work. As a way of trying to get away from the zombies so you can heal yourself up and use a health kit or a splint, something like that. As you can see, I can jump up this thing right here, but the zombies, because it is too away from the top, as in zombies are looking on this particular block, they cannot use this path. This is another path that they themselves cannot use. We can use it just fine if we were to drop some zombies, assuming she actually wants to drop out there. If we were to do that, she could yet again not actually get up to us. And she's still searching for a way to get up to us vertically, as you can see by her going over there. She wants up there as well. Now, if we were to put one here, get off of here. There we go. Now suddenly she can use it. So it has to be like basically at chest height and she can use it. So that is the basics of pathing. There are distinct patterns to how they path to you. It may not always make sense because in some cases it has to do with how many hit points a particular block has in order for them to get to you. Say there's not a direct pathing and they're trying to beat their way to you in some form or another, but the path to you is a long run, but there is like just a piece of wood between you and the zombie might opt to, instead of running to you, beat through the one piece of wood. It just depends on how far the run is, because the run and the blocks are all calculated. Another thing to keep in mind is during a horde night, if you upgrade your blocks in the wrong order, as in the path of least resistance, the path that you want them to go to, the area where you want them to hit has got more hit points than other areas that they can get to, they will beat through the other area rather than coming to you the way you want them to. For instance, I want them to come at this path right here, but instead of upgrading anything else here, I decide to upgrade what's in front of me first. First off, as you can see, she actually got on the same level as me. Even though there's not a pathway between us, she still got on my same level. Now she's frustrated because she actually sees the blocks that she's standing on and these blocks down here as more pathable than the ones that are straight in front of her. And say for instance we had a horde base such as this. We just had a simple path going up into a building, and we decided we're going to stand right here and we're going to put these solid blocks in. The zombies can't see us. It's all good. Now the issue is these blocks, the cobblestone blocks, if you look right here, it actually has the hit points 15,000. They calculate these hit points. I have wood on the other ones. This hit point is only 500. So even stacked on top of each other, these two blocks here, because they'll go about chest height or higher, depending on, you know, whether or not they're standing on top of somebody else's shoulders or if they're like a doggo or something like that. I think they would calculate this one and this one rather than this one and this one. Just try not to make it complicated. The point being is they're going to calculate how many hit points the block has, and they're either going to go after this block or the one next to it trying to get to you, because that's what's in between them and you, and they are always going to go for the path of least resistance. You might ask yourself, why does this matter? How is this helpful? Obviously this is a thing. The reason I'm saying is right now it may be obvious that this right here has got more hit points. As you get higher in, say, cobblestone, concrete, steel, you might be tempted to immediately upgrade the thing standing between you and the zombies as high as you possibly can. If by doing this you open up the possibility that there is another pathway somewhere in your base, right here at your horde base, a secondary passageway that you have built up, if that somehow or another has more hit points, has less hit points than the path that you want them to take, they're going to find an alternate route. I'm going to try and leave that vague because at this point you can actually get into where you're talking about base building, horde base building, zombie cheese bases, the whole 9 yards, and I really don't want to get into talking about cheese bases. We can cover cheese bases later on. Suffice it to say, just keep an eye on, like I said, how many hit points each one of these things have. And here is the build order. We're going to go over building later on, and we can cover it more then, but just in case you're wanting a quick reference on hit points, which one has the most hit points, steel has the most, and it goes down from here. Obviously our building block has got the least amount of hit points. 100, 500, 1500, 5000, 10,000, that's how these blocks go up. So always keep an eye out, and if for some reason you have to put in, say, I don't know, you don't have steel, but you've got a lot of, I don't know, a lot of concrete, and you're trying to figure out a way of adding in more hit points to something, you can layer up blocks. Say I wanted to add extra, say I wanted to add extra without adding any extra width, I could actually do something like that and then cover it more. That way, if I wanted to say, I don't know, put concrete over here and not spin the steel because for some reason I don't have the steel, but I accidentally misclicked and now I have steel sitting right in front of me and the zombies are going to beat on it. It's Horde Night. I don't have a choice. I don't have enough steel to upgrade the ones next to it. Maybe if you have some concrete, you just throw a slab over the top of it and upgrade it there by adding that slab's amount of hit points and the block behind it amount of hit points. Like I said, I don't want to get into a whole lot of the extra stuff because we can talk forever on zombie pathing and base building and all kinds of stuff like that. But ultimately, it does take a matter of experimenting with your blocks, finding out what you like to use, whether or not you want your base to work a particular way, because some people feel like tower bases, which is kind of what this is like a tower base, are cheesy and not useful, or any number of things. I won't get into it. I think it's the only real viable one you can use. Now, aside from things like this, where you're just like layering up blocks and everything else like that for your horde base, for your home base, the whole 9 yards, whether or not you're trying to modify a POI that you're working on, stuff like this is like the bread and butter of 7 days whenever it comes to the building aspect of it. And we can do whole videos on zombie pathing, horde bases, blocks that can or cannot be used. My main goal is just teach you basically zombie pathing and kind of how you can actually test whether or not certain parts of zombie pathing work. You can easily just take these blocks right here and set them up. Say I wanted to do something like this, will a zombie path over that? Just out of curiosity, if there's a 1 block gap and we're using those types of blocks and we just want to test to see whether or not for some reason or another a zombie will path that. Let's find out. Will they path that? In that current configuration, it looks like no, they will not. So if we were to, I don't know, just 1 block gap. Just 1 block gap. Make sure it's not because these guys are being weird because of this part. Okay, they do not see this as a path. Say, I don't know, I wanted to test this block for random reasons. Okay. Now we saw them path that. What happens if we were to do something like this? Would they suddenly find that pathable? Okay. Now I'm just going to stop their AI right here. This is what is referred to as cheesing zombies. Now, you can add a little bit of cheese, you can add a lot of cheese, you can add no cheese. I'm a person who kind of likes some cheese inside their bases, but only in so much as it gives me a reprieve during a horde night. Now, let me quickly show you guys exactly what you have to do in order to kind of run these simulations yourself if you want to. And the way to do that really is through the debug menu. So what you're going to do is hit F1. If you look right below my picture right over here, you can see that I have got debug menu on. You just type in DM, hit enter, and it turns it on. Whenever you do that, you've got a whole lot of stuff that is going to open up for you to be able to fiddle around with it. Right now, I currently have the zombies AI off, and you hit the asterisk or the multiplication button that you want it over here on your number pad on your keyboard, and it turns the AI on and off. You can see in the bottom left-hand side it says it's on and off. There you go. If you're wanting to spawn in zombies, they typically, not always, as you saw earlier, typically they will spawn wherever your cursor is, so you hit F6, and you can put in any kind of bad guy you want to. Say right now, we've kind of sort of found ourselves a cheese thing. Well, these guys, the zombies, are not the only thing that spawn during a horde night. What if we wanted to test that on, say, a wolf or a dog? Will the dogs path it? Will they be able to jump across it? Because, you know, they are not proportioned the same as a regular zombie. Oops, I did not mean to shoot her. Now, now we've tested this against the two main bad guys that you're gonna have to fight. Of course, you've also got the jumping zombies and everything else like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this is not gonna work against the jumping zombies. They'll just bounce over the top of it. You'll have to have something over here to take care of you. But I digress. The way to spawn them all in order to test them is F6. You can do a search on them if you know what to call them. And you can test them against all of your different types of zombies. So you can have them spawning looking at you. You can spawn in 25 of them. Like I said, F6. And you'll be able to do that. Now, if you're wanting to pop out of your character's head like this, in order to spawn them over there, first off, in order to turn your God mode on is Q. If you're in God mode, you can hover. And if you hover, it's going to affect your results. Make sure you turn God mode off and your character is firmly on the ground. And then you can turn it back on if you want to. Just have your character sitting there so in case the zombies do hit you, you don't wind up respawning somewhere weird. Now, if you want to do the thing where you pop out of your character's head, you hit F5, which basically pops you outside of your character's head. You're kind of back behind it. Then you hit P, which makes it where it unattaches the camera from your character. And then you hit the bracket, which makes it where the camera flies on its own instead, where you're in charge of the camera instead of the person. And in order to undo this, you simply go in reverse. The bracket, P, and then F5, and it will undo the entire thing. You can get back inside your character's head. If for some reason it bugs out, which occasionally does whenever you're popping in and out of your character's head, the camera gets confused about where it's supposed to be at. If it gets really, really bad, just escape out of the game and load back in, and you'll be fine, because it undoes all of that whenever you leave the game and come back in. Now, some other things that you may or may not want to know whenever you're doing this is obviously the creative menu. If you're going to be doing block experimentation, I would definitely make sure that you create its own world where you can experiment with, and then just have the creative mode on. But if for some reason or another you're not able to do that, or you're only wanting one save, you can hit the F1 button, type in CM, hit enter, and it turns your creative mode on. Type in CM, it turns it back off. F1, we're going to turn that on, and it's actually under U, or in this case you can also just look inside this little thing right here, and it'll allow you to pick up any weapons that you want to if you want to test a specific weapon or what have you. As far as basics with zombie pathing, yes, this block right here is a bit of cheese, so I'm just going to leave it at that. There's plenty of people telling you how to make a base out of this particular block, but I'm not going to do that right this second. It's just basically, this is how you test on blocks on whether or not zombies path. Do they continuously come up to your location? If they do not try to come up to you, chances are that block is unusable by a zombie, or at least in its current configuration, that block is unusable. Make sure you test it against all of the zombies, because the dogs, the crawlers, and all of them, they basically have the same exact pathing on whether or not the blocks are pathable. They just might use them differently. In instance of those angled pathways, they are considered pathways. The dogs and the regular zombies will not be able to path it, but the ones that bounce will just simply go over it, so it's not completely a cheese. I think that's basically it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we're not going to cover the in-depth stuff. We are going to get into that. I have actually officially created a world for all of those things, and we will be coming back here to cover some more of those things after we get some more of the basics out of the way. But guys, let me know what blocks you find, what blocks wound up being interesting. Have you been exercising your zombies lately? Because if you're not running your zombies through their paces, they might get lazy on you and fall asleep in your closets. So definitely make sure you take them into some sort of laboratory and exercise them every now and then. I will see you guys in the next one. You have a wonderful day, overnight, and you stay shiny. Bye!